No explosion, no casualties, no declaration of war. And yet, in the span of a few days, Israel is recalculating, Washington is reassessing, and the entire regional balance has quietly shifted. This is what modern warfare actually looks like. Coverage of the Middle East is frequently reduced to oversimplifications, numbers, graphics, and explosions. Information matters, but it is never the whole picture. Modern conflicts aren't defined solely by what detonates, by which missiles are launched, or by who struck first. In strategic analysis, conflicts are understood through shifts in behavior, through calculations, through the decision-making patterns of state actors operating under pressure. Recent days have revealed a clear shift in those calculations. Not dramatic, not emotional, systematic. The signs appear in actions, communications, and asset movements. Messages are delivered without a single spoken word, in a deliberate and measured fashion. This isn't about who is more aggressive. It's about who successfully forces the other side to reconsider its assumptions. That distinction matters deeply because calculations shape consequences, and consequences reshape regional equilibrium. Context is everything. This escalation didn't appear from nowhere, and it didn't originate with Iran. Over the preceding period, Iran's strategic interests have come under sustained attack, some direct, some indirect, all leaving a measurable impact on its national security posture. From Tehran's vantage point, each incident isn't merely a disruption. It represents a breach of the deterrence threshold that has been carefully preserved over many years. In Iran's security doctrine, silence is not neutrality. Silence signals vulnerability. Failing to respond can be read as weakness, and weakness tends to invite further aggression. Yet overreacting carries its own dangers. Open, large-scale regional conflict could fracture internal and regional stability to no one's benefit. Iran's chosen path is a calibrated, restrained, and deliberately proportional response. Not for propaganda value, not to project dominance, but to recalibrate its adversaries' expectations. Iran is commonly portrayed as an emotional, irrational, and impulsive actor. Long-term behavioral data tells a different story. Across numerous crises, Iran has demonstrated restraint, observing its adversaries, measuring international pressure, evaluating long-term risks before acting. That is not impulsive conduct. It is disciplined and calculated. Responses are rarely designed to inflict maximum damage. The primary objective is to transmit a message, to opponents, to allies, and to the broader international community. That message may be technical, symbolic, or strategic. The key to analysis lies in understanding motivation, not merely action. Every Iranian move belongs to a larger strategic framework. It is not a reflexive reaction or an emotional outburst. Recognizing this is essential to understanding how regional balances are shifting. Within that framework, the name Fattah surfaced. Public attention immediately gravitated toward technical terminology: hypersonic, extreme velocity, maneuverability, terminal phase guidance, low interception probability. Media coverage leaned into the numbers, the speed, the visual drama. Headlines emphasized breakthrough technology. For analysts, however, the focus lands elsewhere. The primary question isn't speed, nor purely technical performance. The question is, why was Fattah unveiled now? Why amid intensifying regional pressure? Why with such deliberate public visibility, through official channels and globally accessible intelligence reporting? Why was this particular timing and context selected rather than an earlier window? None of this is coincidental. In defense analysis, capability claims carry tangible weight even before independent verification is complete. The mere circulation of initial information can produce immediate strategic effects. Adversaries are compelled to revise their worst-case scenarios. Defense simulations are updated, budgets are re-evaluated, military posture and personnel readiness are reconsidered. Political decisions and diplomatic channels are affected, and all of this unfolds before a single bullet is fired, before a single explosion occurs. Fattah is more than a missile. Every dimension of this weapon constitutes a message. Its design, its stated capabilities, the timing of its disclosure, even the accompanying rhetoric, all are crafted to reshape the adversary's perception. Under this logic, Iran doesn't need to demonstrate full operational effectiveness, doesn't need to launch its entire arsenal. It simply needs to make the weapon impossible to ignore. Any military decision by Israel or the United States directed at Iran must now account for a far more complex set of scenarios. Not merely the technical performance of missiles or the rate of successful interceptions, but the cascading long-term consequences of each action. Pressure on an adversary isn't always kinetic. It can manifest as a reallocation of military resources, a shift in defense budget priorities, or a heightened awareness of political and psychological risk. From Iran's perspective, this constitutes strategic communication, not outright aggression, not a declaration of war, but a firm reassertion of position. Fattah 2 demonstrates that advanced capability can serve as an instrument of covert diplomacy. The appearance of such a weapon forces adversaries to reconsider not just their destructive capacity, but how every move they make will be interpreted and factored into future calculations. Every potential maneuver, every prospective strike, every form of military pressure now carries additional risk. This is the essence of a war of calculation. The message lands without firing a shot, without new casualties, and most critically, its impact is immediately registered in the adversary's posture and behavior. In the longer view, Fattah 2 reshapes the perception of risk. It isn't simply an addition to Iran's military inventory or another data point on a threat assessment. It is a tool designed to influence the political decisions and military strategy of others. When adversaries begin accounting for worst-case scenarios, they also begin factoring in the humanitarian, social, logistical, and psychological costs. All of this happens before a single missile is actually launched. Every element of Fattah 2 functioned as a signal: its design, its capabilities, the context of its announcement. The message was straightforward. Any attack on Iran now demands serious reconsideration, and that message was not rhetoric. It was a genuine strategic calculation. Through Fattah 2, Iran illustrated a foundational principle of modern conflict. Military capability is a communication instrument. Not merely a tool of destruction, not simply a weapon, but a mechanism for reshaping adversarial perception and recalibrating their decision-making. It is essential to distinguish between capability and intent. Iran demonstrated capability. It did not announce intent to destroy. That distinction defines modern deterrence. Not striking first, but ensuring that any strike against you carries prohibitive military, political, and social costs. Fattah 2 is a strategic communication instrument. It conveys the price the attacker would pay, not as spectacle, not as provocation. The message is legible to analysts, even when it remains invisible to the broader public. Israel maintains a sophisticated air defense infrastructure. Interceptions succeed. Physical infrastructure remains functional. The country is not paralyzed. But survival is not the same as being free from pressure. Each interception comes at a substantial cost: logistical, personnel-related, financial. The psychological burden on civilians is equally real. Alert sirens sound repeatedly. Schools and economic activity face disruption. A pervasive sense of insecurity sets in. From Iran's standpoint, the strategic message is clear. Attacking Iran would impose a prolonged burden, not only on the Israeli military, but on Israeli society as a whole. These effects rarely register on military maps, but they are felt acutely in daily life. No analysis is complete without acknowledging the humanitarian dimension. Civilians in Iran, civilians in Israel, children, families, workers, absorb the earliest and heaviest consequences. Air defense systems can intercept missiles, but they cannot intercept trauma. They cannot prevent social dislocation or eliminate fear. In modern conflicts, humanitarian costs emerge well ahead of political or military ones. With every day of escalation, the human toll compounds. This must be an integral part of any serious strategic analysis. Claims involving high-value targets, including Benjamin Netanyahu, tend to be processed by the public as simply true or false. Analysts approach them differently. Such claims apply psychological pressure, particularly on political elites. They shape perceptions of personal security, political stability, and the decision-making environment. Even without full confirmation, claims function as effective, non-kinetic tools in contemporary warfare. Psychological pressure frequently proves more consequential than large-scale physical destruction. The role of the United States remains central. Washington operates as the dominant external power. Its military support is substantial. Its political reach is extensive. But dominance carries inherent consequences. Each escalation raises the risk of deeper direct involvement. Each act of support narrows the available diplomatic space. Every regional conflict reverberates globally. The strategic tension is plain. An offensive posture without a viable de-escalation pathway deepens instability. Paradoxically, Iran's measured response provides Washington with an opening to restrain further escalation. Outside the Western axis, perceptions diverge considerably. Many nations interpret Iran's actions as a defensive posture rather than unilateral aggression. Narrative legitimacy shapes political support, and political support determines whether a state faces isolation or engagement. In this phase, Iran has managed, relatively effectively, to avoid being cast as an unprovoked aggressor, a positioning that carries genuine diplomatic weight. The central conclusion is clear: Iran operates with deliberate calculation, Israel absorbs sustained pressure. The United States confronts an escalation dilemma. Civilians pay the first and most direct costs. Fattah 2 is not a resolution, not a declaration of war, but a signal that the balance is shifting. The old deterrence calculus no longer holds in full. Regional postures are evolving incrementally. The tangible consequences are being felt most acutely in civil society. The question going forward is not who possesses the greatest strength, nor who strikes first. The question is whether all parties are beginning to genuinely recalibrate their boundaries. Will the accumulating humanitarian costs ultimately compel a more cautious approach? This analysis does not justify violence. It seeks to foster understanding before the next escalation unfolds. The failure to understand is more dangerous than the failure to act. Disclaimer: analysis is based on open source information. The situation can evolve rapidly. Some claims remain pending independent verification. This content is educational and analytical in nature.